Hi, friends. Hmm. Thank you for joining us today.
Well,
Okay, I forgot what we're going to cover.
do you want to start over?
Yeah.
Self-help. Ready, take two.
Hello, friends.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us today.
Well, what do you think? It's the new year.
Oh, yes, it is a new year.
The new
for
year.
New resolutions.
New me.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about the new year, but I always think a little bit about, well, especially going on vacation like we did. Are there any things that I just feel don't serve me anymore? No, my mind gets going on that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I really want to sit by you, but I'm being blinded.
Yeah, this is
I'm
very
just gonna,
practical. So.
yeah. Do you want to move over a little?
Sure.
Okay. Maybe we'll just even kind of, hi, you guys can come along with us if you get motion sickness. Just close your eyes for a second. Okay. See what I mean? You can't, sometimes you can bear with the sun and sometimes you can't. Okay. Oh no, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm glowing.
Shining. Okay, well, just turn it to audio.
Well, I guess for that, when you talk about that, it just brings up the thought of a lot of the stuff that we promote on our Rewild You channel, a lot of the stuff we teach in our classes, it all has to do with kind of, I don't know, self-help, self-development, self-evolution, I like to call it. Trying to grow as a person, to become healthier, more vital,
be your
kinder, more compassionate. Yeah. These are good things.
Yeah, I mean, arguably, we want to do that, right?
But there's also a trap, isn't there?
Well, you know, I kind of am an avid self-helper person.
Yeah, we're into this.
Yeah, although it's so tricky. This one is really multifaceted and has very subtle shades to it, because I think you're right. That is really good. I feel good when I am meeting situations where I'm trying to be aware, I'm trying to be present, and I'm trying to be my highest self within that situation. That feels good, better than throwing a tantrum and being depressed or angry with people. It never feels very good to be aggressive or frustrated. That just, I don't resonate well with that. However, as a kind of recovering perfectionist, it can be really difficult to recognize kind of, what would you call it? You call it a trap, but how would you explain it?
Well, like you say, there's all these little subtle layers that go along with this. And one that sometimes we don't think about is that if I'm going to say it to you, but imagine often we're saying this to ourselves.
Okay.
If I say, Rebecca, you could, stand to be a little bit nicer to people, then I'm kind of telling you that I disapprove of you, right? And so it's easy to see when it goes from one human to another. But when I'm doing it with myself, I'm saying, oh, I want to take something very benign. I want to eat better. That can come with some subtle little ideas of
implications.
Yeah. Oh, so you're just undisciplined, or these little voices in our head that kind of tell us we're not loved as we are.
Right.
We're not good enough.
That we need to change. It comes back to that should. You should be different. And that's tricky because, well, it's like this is sort of an analogy for a lot of things in life. Then do you say, oh, okay, wow, then I'm just going to abandon any measure of trying to be my best self. But there's a benefit sometimes in saying, you know what? This is me right now, and Divine Mother doesn't necessarily, we can be loved how we are, and yet that doesn't mean that we can't also want to be motivated to change. And we're always changing, but But maybe there is a benefit of going, you know what? Maybe I'm cranky and I'm cantankerous and I'm just downright disagreeable and I am going to be mean and I don't want to be nice. And you know what? For this one moment, that's okay, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I often wonder if we allow that of ourselves, would we have a little more compassion for other people? You know, sometimes something happens and you will never get to explain to the other person, hey, all of these events led me to this one moment where you happened to be there and you experienced me, you know, not at my best. And yet that's not me, but now you forever will think of me that way. And of course, we get worried because we're social creatures.
Right.
I'm worried that that person will ever think that I, cut them off in traffic when they don't understand that I had a medical emergency or, but I do think self compassion allows compassion for others. And maybe that's what we're talking about with the self help thing is not having such high expectations.
Yeah, I think you're hitting the heart of it. Long ago, I think we came up with a little thought between us that went like, it doesn't matter so much what you do as how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
And what we meant by that applies here, I think, because I can go after self improvement,
Mm-hmm.
and I can do it in such a way. Let's say I really want to sculpt my body and make myself look more
Conanish.
Conanish. Yeah.
Maybe not Conan. Let's not go Conan.
Okay.
That's not all the Conan. Half Conan.
And I can do that in a way that it sort of stokes my ego. It gets me more settled into this idea and form, this ideation of Kenton.
And like that's the best way you're better if you're more Conan-esque than if you're not.
Yes. And so not only am I feeding my ego, but I'm building up something temporary. My aging, things will shift and change over time. Could get sick. There's all these things that can affect not only our body or our health, but our mentality as well.
Yeah.
I could be super, super chill and in control of my emotions, and yet I'm going to have that day when I am a little snarky or a little snippy, and then I kind of building up this image of myself, and then I fall from that, and then I'm going to spend a lot of mental energy usually in self-punishment.
Yeah. Why am I this way? What's wrong with me that I'm here again?
And that immerses us deeper and deeper into
it really does suck us in.
Ego-ness.
And I think you can get addicted to the self-help side of things in this weird way where then you're not actually helping yourself. You're sort of, and this is going to be so tough because we don't have a word in our culture for this feeling that you can get where you're doing everything right. You're seeing a therapist and you're reading books and you're trying techniques. And yet there's this seeking in you that says, I'm uncomfortable with who I am. I'm not good enough. I'm not. And so we do all of these kind of self-help things, which arguably probably do help us. However, if we continue to have that sort of relationship with ourselves and with the world and a certain perspective, then we can be forever stuck in the kind of self-improvement without really changing that core inside of us. There's something nice about going for a hike in nature, especially sometimes just by yourself and stopping for a moment and regarding the chickadee in the tree and seeing the chickadee regard you. And there's this just understanding. The chickadee is the chickadee. We don't know if the chickadee's grumpy today. They don't know if we're in the depths of depression. We just are. And we have this kind regard for one another. And it's okay. If the chickadee's grumpy, I don't care. If I'm in a depression, the chickadee's not going to judge me, oh, you're back here again. We're just there for this moment. And sometimes I feel that we could use more of that. Hey, here's this moment. And Divine Mother's creating all of this. And maybe for this one moment, this is all right. Just to be here and have a kind regard.
That being, going out into nature is such a good example of different ways that we can do it. Because I can read a book on all the studies that are showing how good it is to get out in nature, and I can say, okay, I'm going to go out in nature and walk through the woods to lower my blood pressure and to do this.
Yes.
And that's one experience. Going out in the way you're talking about is going to be a different experience.
Yeah.
I'm going to go out and I'm going to say, I'm going to go out and I want to just see and appreciate Divine Mother in all of a bunch of her forms, in oak tree form, and chickadee form, and squirrel form, and soak into that. That's going to be a different experience. And ultimately, we don't have to judge and say one of those experiences is better than another, but we may find that when we go into an experience in a different way, we find ourselves encountering life and having a different experience of life than we do entering into it in another way.
Yeah, I think, again, it comes back to it's not what you do, but how you do it. So how are we entering into the idea of evolving ourselves? And can there be the idea simultaneously, I am enough, just stripped bare here, look at all my foibles, look at everything that I am, and I am enough? And can we have that at the same time as we have, and I wish to be kinder, or I wish to be, whatever it is? Can those two exist simultaneously, and how do you be in that place?
Because it seems like they can't. I mean, in our culture, I feel like there's a messaging that you aren't going to improve unless you obviously disapprove of how you currently are.
Yeah.
And so we sort of can't want more unless we're unsatisfied with where we are. This idea of loving yourself, feeling like you're completely worthy of love and beingness just as you are, and yet still having that energy to strive for more is an alien concept sometimes for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We want a black and white, and I just don't think that really exists. There's so much fluctuation. There's so much to being our best selves. And some of it, I think, comes down to just complete and utter self-honesty and transparency. Because if we're hiding from ourselves, that's the first place that we are going to get hung up. And we're going to say, oh no, I'm doing this, whatever, I'm meditating 15 hours a day because of blah, blah. But if we're not really honest and saying, well, I'm doing that because I want to impress this guy that I'm seeing because he's a meditator and, all these people that I'm around, we just need to be really honest, because I think from the honesty is where we can see. Sometimes I think it comes down to just observing. And when you observe without judging and saying, I'd be better if I was like that, or, this is a bad habit or whatever, we just go, notice I'm eating chocolate cake at 1 a.m. again from the refrigerator. Okay.
Oh God, that sounds good.
Does that sound good to me right now? So I don't know, maybe carrot. That's how I'm feeling right now. There'll be other times that I'll feel differently, but.
There's a ganache feeling.
So the point is not to go, oh, I'm eating chocolate cake at 1 a.m. again. It's to just, because you hear my attitude. Again, there's this self-judgment. There can be this, it's just notice, okay, I'm doing it. I even say, I'm eating chocolate cake at 1 a.m. from the refrigerator again. Okay? Or even to say, here's Rebecca eating, there she goes, she's eating chocolate cake. Just to note it. And you don't even necessarily have to change your action, but if every time you say it, then there's this magical way where you start to go, okay, is that what I'm going to choose to keep doing? Just the paying attention. And maybe sometimes that's what's happening with the chickadee outside. It's just the paying attention. You don't even have to change who you are or what you're doing, but you can if you want to, because you're aware.
I think what you're saying leads us down a road to playfulness. Because sometimes I feel like playfulness can be the best guide towards this self-improvement. So if I'm imagining Divine Mother's becoming me. And here I want to, when I think about sculpting my body, I can think, well, I can do that in a way that I'll be able to climb trees into my 70s, 80s, maybe even 90s. And it's really fun to climb trees because they get to experience a different way of being with Divine Mother when I'm up in a tree as opposed to the ground. Even maybe someone appreciating the aesthetics that you've created in your body sculpting, and then thinking, oh, Divine Mother, here, feel that appreciation that I'm feeling. Right? I'm feeling good from this. But here I'm feeling these things, but I'm feeling them in that context or with this idea that it's not about me. It's about Divine Mother being playful through me. And then I might find that I sit down to that chocolate cake at 1 a.m. and I take a couple bites and I really savor it. And oh, this is really good. But then I might find in that playfulness, because that playfulness knows stuff that feels really good as opposed to stuff that doesn't. I might say, those 2 bites are enough. I don't need to eat that whole piece because I know if I eat that whole piece, I'm going to go to bed. I'm going to feel, and just awful. And I want to give Divine Mother some just sheer enjoyment of this. These 2 bites were great. And I don't need any more. And I kind of think that can go throughout. Again, if I walk into the woods and I have this playfulness, I'm going to have a much better time than if I'm going out there to try to cultivate more health.
The seriousness, I think, honestly, I swear, it's going to get up there with partially hydrogenated vegetable oil. And stress is seriousness, because when we take something seriously, oh, I need to be a better person. Oh, I wasn't my best self. Bad me. The seriousness, I think, does something to us. It does something to us physiologically. It does something to us emotionally and mentally. It probably does something to us spiritually, because if we can get really to that spiritual place, to me, that's looking at the chickadee and the chickadee looking at me, and we're kind of the same. And I have this love of and respect of chickadees, and they could be however they want to be. And why can't I allow that for myself? So the seriousness, I think, is an indicator, and the playfulness is the kind of the gauge then of where we are in how seriously we are taking our self-help and our self-evolution. Sort of like some of the Zen masters who they're, completely realized, but they're heading down to the tavern. Or, there's a certain joy we experience when someone is present, but they're also alive. Yeah, because being your best self, I think, is often portrayed in our culture as someone who is very, stoic. The Stoics have a lot of great stuff, but just very, and almost without emotion. And in some ways, I don't think, to me, Divine Mother wants to experience many things. I don't think she wants to get sucked into emotion any more than she wants to get sucked into emotionlessness. I think it's just the presence that you're talking about.
Yeah, that being presence allows her to really experience through us.
Yeah.
Again, I think we've talked about this in the sense of if you could be playing a video game and you could somehow go into that character and you just went in and they're just stuck in their thoughts.
Right.
I mean, she can probably experience things with less judgment than we can.
I'm sure.
But I often get kind of the download that she takes some joy in experiencing
Sure.
something more than just my ruminating thoughts.
Yeah.
She really enjoys tasting the chocolate cake. She really enjoys seeing the sunlight glint off of a little piece of thing instead of just walking, a piece of ice. What I'm thinking of, ice crystal. These beautiful ones.
I'm sorry, it's so beautiful outside right now. So I'm obviously.
I know. We should turn this around.
I don't know if it will capture it.
It won't. Should we explain it?
Yeah. So it's very cold here today. It's -2 or 3 out right now, and there's these misty clouds that the sun is coming through, and then there's this fine snow that's more than just the little sparkles, but it's like a pixie dust, and everything's kind of gray and silver and bronze, and the light is shining through it. It's very, very magical.
Hence our distraction.
Yeah. As soon as you said light, crystal, whatever, I was like, yeah, I get you.
Well-
I didn't even pay attention to what you were saying word-wise. I was like, this, you're seeing this.
And we can experience that. Or we could just walk by it, stuck in my ruminating thoughts. And so that playfulness, calls us into engagement.
Yeah.
Engagement with the world.
I have something else to say.
Okay.
You can finish your thought if you want
That's
to.
all.
Okay. So I think that we can be told with our cultural conditioning that we don't have the answers inside of us. And so sometimes we can get pulled into the self-improvement and the self-help. Hey, you should try this. It made me like this. You should try this. And there's as many different self-help things as there are diets, as there are religions, as there are all, so much nowadays that we can start to think, I have to listen to this other person. I have to follow this, program, which again, if it's working for you and you're feeling playful and you're feeling energized and you're feeling connected to Divine Mother, that's the gauge. But sometimes we just need to be in the world and call Divine Mother in and know that we have, I keep going right here. There's this, and sometimes in your gut, it's this feeling where you feel like, yeah, I'm here, I'm doing it, I'm experiencing it. Even if you're within a sad emotion or a frustrated emotion, we can be within the negative emotions and still experience this sense of wholeness and this sense of I am enough and I am being my best self. And we don't always need to listen to everybody else's voices. We can just listen to our calling and Divine Mother's voices. So if we are open and we listen and pay attention, we can get all the information we need sometimes to find that playful way to be in our highest self. Just
nice.
A random thought. Well, it wasn't random because it's attached, but it makes sense within the context of what we're talking about. But anyway.
Share?
Yeah, we want to know what your thoughts are on evolving yourself, on being your best self, and being connected to Divine Mother, and yet at the same time feeling enough. What?
The main question is why you do it.
Yeah.
If you do, why?
Yeah, and ways that you've explored that really work, things that haven't worked. Just, I don't know, whatever comes to you. Okay.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, very grateful. Okay, I guess that's all for now. Mwah.